Before you spend another dollar on expensive fruit at the grocery store, there's something you need to see. What if I told you that one tiny patio, one sunny balcony, or even a small corner outside your front door could produce baskets of fresh, juicy fruit year after year? Most people believe fruit trees belong in massive orchards. They imagine towering trees, sprawling roots, and acres of land, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Thanks to modern dwarf varieties, you can now grow apples, peaches, lemons, cherries, figs, mangoes, and even tropical fruits in nothing more than containers. But here's the surprising part. Some dwarf fruit trees produce so heavily that their branches actually bend under the weight of the harvest, even while growing in pots. And one of the trees on today's list can produce fruit almost every month of the year. So before you buy another fruit tree, stick around until the very end because the number one variety is one of the easiest, most productive container fruit trees ever developed. Today we're counting down 20 high-yield dwarf fruit trees that can transform even the smallest outdoor space into a thriving backyard orchard. Let's get started. Let's
Number 20 is the incredibly productive dwarf Meyer lemon. Unlike standard lemon trees that can grow over 20 feet tall, this compact variety rarely exceeds 6 to 8 feet, making it one of the best citrus trees for patios and balconies. Don't let its small size fool you. Once mature, a healthy Meyer lemon can produce dozens of fragrant lemons every single season. Because citrus roots demand excellent drainage, choose a sturdy 10 to 15 gallon container, preferably made of terracotta or heavy plastic to prevent the tree from tipping over as it grows. Fill the pot with a premium citrus potting mix blended with coarse sand and pine bark to encourage airflow around the roots. Always purchase a grafted nursery tree rather than growing from seed. Grafted trees begin fruiting years earlier and guarantee the sweet, low-acid flavor Meyer lemons are famous for. Place the container where it receives at least 8 hours of direct sunlight every day. When it comes to watering, allow the top 2 inches of soil to dry before soaking the entire root ball thoroughly. Feed the tree every 6 weeks during the growing season using a citrus fertilizer rich in nitrogen, magnesium, and iron. Harvest begins when the fruit develops a rich golden yellow color and feels slightly soft when gently squeezed. Fresh Meyer lemons are perfect for homemade lemonade, desserts, seafood dishes, and fresh salad dressings. Here's a fascinating fact. Unlike ordinary lemons, the Meyer lemon is actually a natural hybrid between a lemon and a mandarin orange, which explains its sweeter flavor and thinner skin. Coming in at number 19 is the beautiful Calamandan orange. This miniature citrus tree is famous for producing hundreds of tiny bright orange fruits on a plant small enough to fit comfortably on almost any patio. It's one of the few fruit trees capable of flowering and fruiting simultaneously, creating an incredible display of white blossoms and ripe fruit at the same time. Plant it in a breathable 10-gallon fabric grow bag filled with a fast-draining citrus soil mix. Unlike many fruit trees, calamandans dislike constantly wet soil, water deeply, then wait until the upper layer dries before watering again. They'll feed every 6 to 8 weeks with a citrus fertilizer to encourage continuous blooming. You'll know the fruit is ready when it develops a deep orange color and releases an intensely fragrant citrus aroma. Although incredibly sour, the juice is prized for marinades, beverages, sauces, and desserts. According to horticultural studies, calamandan trees are among the longest producing container citrus varieties, often flowering several times throughout the year under warm conditions. Here's a fascinating fact. The peel is actually sweeter than the juice. Many gardeners simply pop the entire fruit into their mouths, enjoying the sweet skin first before the tart center creates the perfect flavor balance. Sliding into number 18 is one of the most underrated fruit trees you'll ever grow. The dwarf loquat. While many fruit trees produce during summer, loquats do something extraordinary. They bloom during autumn and ripen their delicious golden fruit in late winter or early spring, exactly when very few other fruits are available. Choose a deep 15-gallon container because loquats develop a strong root system over time. Use rich, well-draining soil heavily amended with compost to provide long-lasting nutrients. Purchase a grafted tree instead of planting seeds. Seed-grown loquats may take many years to produce fruit and often vary greatly in quality. Place the tree in full sun. Water consistently during flowering and fruit development, but reduce watering slightly once the fruit begins to mature. Apply a balanced fruit tree fertilizer every month during active growth. Harvest only after the fruit turns fully golden orange and becomes slightly soft. Inside, you'll discover incredibly juicy flesh with a flavor somewhere between peaches, citrus, and apricots. According to agricultural research, loquats contain impressive amounts of vitamin A, potassium, and antioxidants that support healthy vision and immune function. Here's a fascinating fact. Loquat flowers bloom during some of the coolest months of the year, filling the garden with an incredibly sweet fragrance when almost every other fruit tree is completely dormant. At number 17 is the spectacular dwarf Fuyu persimmon. This beautiful ornamental tree delivers something most gardeners never expect: a breathtaking autumn display followed by baskets of sweet, crisp fruit. Unlike traditional persimmons that require full ripeness before eating, Fuyu persimmons can be enjoyed while they're still firm, almost like an apple. Plant your tree in a sturdy 15-gallon container using well-draining, loamy soil enriched with compost. Place it where it receives full sunlight throughout the day. Young trees require consistent watering, but once established, persimmons become remarkably drought-tolerant. Feed every spring using a balanced, slow-release fruit tree fertilizer. Harvest begins when the fruit turns a brilliant deep orange. Fresh persimmons are delicious eaten raw, dried into snacks, baked into cakes, or blended into smoothies. Research shows persimmons contain exceptionally high levels of beta-carotene, vitamin C, and powerful antioxidants that help protect cells from oxidative stress. Here's a fascinating fact. Unlike many deciduous fruit trees, persimmons often hold their bright orange fruit long after every leaf has fallen, making the tree look as though it's decorated with glowing lanterns throughout autumn. Out of the 4 trees we've covered so far, which one would you love to grow on your patio? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're finding this list helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe because we're just getting started. The next fruit tree is one that many people assume requires a tropical plantation, but modern breeding has transformed it into one of the highest yielding container trees you can grow. Coming in at number 16 is the incredibly productive dwarf tropical guava. If you've never smelled a ripe guava straight from the tree, you're missing one of gardening's greatest rewards. A single compact tree can perfume your entire patio long before the fruit is ready to harvest. Because guavas naturally grow into broad shrubs, plant yours in a 10-gallon fabric grow bag filled with rich, well-draining potting soil mixed generously with compost and coarse sand. Always buy a grafted or air-layered tree. Seed-grown guavas often produce unpredictable fruit and can take years longer to bear. Place the container in the hottest, sunniest location available. Guavas absolutely thrive in heat. Water deeply every 2 to 3 days during the hottest part of summer, keeping the soil evenly moist without becoming waterlogged. Feed with a phosphorus-rich organic fertilizer every month to encourage abundant flowering and fruit production. You'll know harvest time has arrived when the fruit changes from bright green to pale yellow and fills the air with a powerful tropical fragrance. Slice the fruit open and enjoy the sweet pink flesh fresh. Blend it into refreshing juices or make homemade jams packed with natural flavor. According to nutritional research, guava contains several times more vitamin C than oranges, making it one of the most nutrient-dense fruits you can grow at home. Here's a fascinating fact. In many tropical regions, guava leaves are brewed into herbal tea because they naturally contain antibacterial compounds that have been traditionally used to support digestive health. Kicking off the second half of our countdown is the breathtaking dwarf peach, one of the fastest ways to enjoy homegrown stone fruit without needing a large backyard. Many people assume peach trees grow too large for containers, but compact varieties like Bonanza and Garden Gold completely change the game. These trees rarely grow taller than 6 feet, yet they can produce baskets of full-sized peaches every summer. Plant your tree in a sturdy 15-gallon container filled with rich, well-draining potting soil mixed with compost and coarse sand. Always choose a grafted nursery tree. You'll enjoy fruit years sooner than if you start from seed. Position the container in full sun where it receives at least 8 hours of direct light every day. During spring and early summer, keep the soil evenly moist. Never allow the tree to dry out while fruit is developing, or it may drop its peaches before they're fully mature. Apply a slow-release fruit tree fertilizer in early spring and again shortly after flowering. Harvest when the fruit develops deep golden skin with a rosy blush and yields slightly under gentle pressure. Fresh peaches are perfect for cobblers, smoothies, preserves, or simply eaten warm straight from the tree. According to horticultural research, peaches continue developing sweetness right up until harvest, making tree-ripened fruit dramatically sweeter than most supermarket peaches. Here's a fascinating fact. The fuzzy skin on peaches naturally helps protect the fruit from insects, sunburn, and moisture loss while it ripens. Coming in at number 14 is the incredibly rewarding dwarf apricot. This compact fruit tree delivers one of spring's most spectacular displays, covering itself with delicate pink and white blossoms before producing clusters of golden orange fruit. Because apricots dislike soggy roots, plant yours in a 15-gallon heavy plastic container filled with sandy, well-draining soil enriched with compost. Choose a self-pollinating dwarf variety whenever possible. Place it in the sunniest location available, water deeply, but allow the upper layer of soil to dry slightly before watering again. Feed monthly with a balanced fruit tree fertilizer until midsummer. Harvest when the fruit develops a rich orange color and easily separates from the stem. Fresh apricots are delicious eaten raw, dried for healthy snacks, or transformed into flavorful jams. Research shows apricots are naturally rich in beta-carotene, potassium, and vitamin A, nutrients that support healthy eyesight and skin. Here's a fascinating fact. Apricot blossoms often appear before the leaves, creating the breathtaking illusion of an entire tree made of flowers. Sliding into number 13 is the elegant dwarf olive tree. While many gardeners grow olives purely for their beautiful silver-green foliage, this Mediterranean favorite also rewards patient growers with surprisingly generous harvests. Because olive trees naturally thrive in rocky hillsides, choose a 10-gallon terracotta pot with exceptional drainage. Use sandy soil mixed generously with gravel or coarse sand. Place the tree in full sun from morning until evening. Unlike many fruit trees, olives actually prefer the soil to dry slightly between waterings. Too much water encourages disease and weak growth. Feed lightly once every spring using a fertilizer designed for fruit trees. Harvest begins when the olives turn from green to deep purple or black, depending on the variety. After proper curing, they're perfect for appetizers, pizzas, salads, and homemade olive oil. According to agricultural studies, olive trees are among the longest living fruit trees on Earth, with some producing fruit for hundreds of years. Here's a fascinating fact. Some olive trees growing around the Mediterranean today are believed to be more than 1,000 years old, and they're still producing fruit. At number 12 is one of the world's favorite fruits, the dwarf apple tree. Forget the giant orchard trees your grandparents grew. Modern dwarf apples stay compact while producing remarkably large harvests that are easy to reach without ladders. Plant your tree inside a 15 to 20 gallon container using fertile, loamy soil with excellent drainage. For best production, purchase grafted trees grown on dwarf rootstocks. Place them in full sun. Water consistently during flowering and fruit development. Feed in early spring using a slow-release fertilizer formulated for apples. Harvest once the fruit develops full color and separates easily from the branch with a gentle twist. Fresh apples are perfect for pies, cider, applesauce, or healthy everyday snacks. Research has consistently shown that apples contain powerful polyphenols and dietary fiber that support heart health. Here's a fascinating fact. Apple trees don't produce identical fruit from seed. Every seed grows into a completely new genetic combination, which is why commercial orchards rely almost entirely on grafting. Breaking into our top 11 is the productive dwarf plum tree. This beautiful tree bursts into clouds of blossoms during spring before rewarding growers with glossy purple, red, or golden fruit later in summer. Use a 15-gallon container filled with compost-rich, well-draining soil. Choose a self-fertile dwarf variety if you only have room for one tree. Water deeply during fruit development. Feed monthly until midsummer. Harvest when the fruit becomes fully colored and slightly soft. Fresh plums are outstanding for eating fresh, drying into prunes, or making homemade preserves. According to nutrition researchers, plums contain antioxidants called anthocyanins that help reduce inflammation throughout the body. Here's a fascinating fact. Some plum trees can produce well over 100 fruits from a tree no taller than 6 feet. If you're enjoying this countdown so far, take a second to hit the like button because the next 10 trees become even more productive. And I have to warn you, the number one fruit tree completely changed the way many gardeners think about container growing. You definitely don't want to miss it. Now let's continue. Opening our top 10 is the incredibly productive dwarf thornless blackberry. Unlike traditional blackberry canes that aggressively spread through the garden, compact thornless varieties remain neat, manageable, and remarkably productive inside containers. Plant them inside a 5-gallon pot filled with slightly acidic, compost-rich soil. Provide a small trellis for support. Water consistently throughout summer and feed monthly using a balanced fertilizer. Harvest once every berry turns completely black and pulls away effortlessly. These sweet berries are perfect for pies, jams, smoothies, and desserts. Here's a fascinating fact. Blackberries aren't technically true berries. Each tiny bump you see on the fruit is actually its own individual fruit containing a single seed. Coming in at number 9 is one of the healthiest fruits you can possibly grow, the dwarf blueberry. Blueberries actually perform better in containers than they do in many backyard soils because you can control the... Use a 5-gallon fabric grow bag filled primarily with peat moss, pine bark, and acidic potting mix. Always water with rainwater whenever possible. Fertilize using feed formulated specifically for acid-loving plants. Harvest when the berries turn completely blue and roll effortlessly into your hand. According to numerous health studies, blueberries are packed with anthocyanins that support memory and brain health. Here's a fascinating fact. A mature blueberry bush can remain productive for over 30 years with proper care. At number 8 is one of the fastest producing fruit trees you'll ever own, the dwarf ever-bearing mulberry. Unlike traditional mulberry trees that become enormous landscape giants, dwarf varieties remain compact while producing fruit continuously throughout much of the growing season. Plant in a 15-gallon fabric grow bag using rich, loamy soil. Place it in full sun. Water frequently while fruit is developing. Feed monthly using balanced organic fertilizer. Harvest the deep purple berries as soon as they fall into your hand with the lightest touch. Fresh mulberries are outstanding for jams, desserts, smoothies, and eating by the handful. Research shows mulberries contain resveratrol, the same antioxidant often associated with red grapes. Here's a fascinating fact. Silkworms eat almost nothing except mulberry leaves. Without mulberry trees, the ancient silk industry would never have existed. Sliding into number 7 is the elegant dwarf bush cherry. If you've always dreamed of harvesting glossy red cherries without climbing a towering tree, this compact variety makes it possible. Modern dwarf bush cherries stay under 5 feet tall, making harvesting incredibly easy while producing an impressive crop every summer. Plant your cherry tree in a 10 to 15 gallon fabric grow bag filled with fertile, well-draining soil enriched with compost. Choose a self-pollinating variety if you're only growing one tree. Place it in full sun where it receives at least 8 hours of direct sunlight each day. Keep the soil consistently moist once flowering begins because drought stress can cause the tree to drop its developing fruit. Apply a slow-release fruit tree fertilizer once in early spring. Harvest when the cherries become deep crimson, glossy, and slightly soft. Fresh cherries are perfect for pies, juices, preserves, and healthy snacks. According to nutritional research, tart cherries naturally contain melatonin, a compound associated with improved sleep quality. Here's a fascinating fact. Birds can spot ripe cherries from remarkable distances, often finding your harvest before you do, which is why many gardeners cover their trees with lightweight netting just before harvest. Breaking into the top 6 is the ancient dwarf pomegranate. Few fruit trees combine beauty and productivity quite like this one. In spring, brilliant scarlet flowers cover every branch. By autumn, those same flowers transform into jewel-like fruits packed with hundreds of ruby red seeds. Plant it inside a 5 to 10 gallon terracotta container using sandy, well-draining soil. This tree actually performs better when slightly root-bound, making it ideal for container gardening. Place it in full blazing sun. Allow the soil to dry moderately between deep waterings. Feed once in early spring using organic bone meal or a balanced fertilizer. Harvest when the fruits develop a rich crimson color and begin making a metallic sound when gently tapped. The sweet tart arils are delicious in salads, smoothies, desserts, or fresh juice. Clinical studies have shown that pomegranates contain punicolagens, among the most powerful antioxidants found in any commonly grown fruit. Here's a fascinating fact. A single mature pomegranate can contain well over 600 edible seeds. We've officially reached the top 5, and number 5 belongs to one of the world's most beloved tropical fruits, the dwarf mango. Most people believe mango trees belong in sprawling tropical orchards, but compact varieties like Pickering, Julie, and Ice Cream completely rewrite the rules. These naturally compact trees produce full-sized, incredibly sweet mangoes while remaining small enough for patios. Use a 15 to 20 gallon heavy-duty container filled with fast-draining citrus or palm soil. Purchase a grafted tree for quicker fruit production. Place it in the hottest, sunniest location you have. Mangoes dislike constantly wet roots. Allow the upper portion of soil to dry before watering deeply. Feed monthly using a fertilizer high in potassium. Harvest when the fruit develops vibrant yellow and red coloring while releasing a rich tropical fragrance. Fresh mangoes are outstanding in smoothies, fruit salads, salsa, desserts, and frozen treats. Research from tropical fruit specialists shows that mangoes are excellent sources of vitamins A and C while providing significant antioxidant benefits. Here's a fascinating fact. A healthy dwarf mango tree can continue producing fruit for decades with proper care. We've already covered some incredible fruit trees, but the next four are in a completely different league. One of them produces fruit almost continuously. Another is one of the easiest fruit trees in the entire world to grow. And the number one tree has become the secret weapon of experienced container gardeners everywhere. Let's keep going. Coming in at number 4 is the spectacular dragon fruit. This climbing cactus looks like something from another planet. Massive white flowers bloom for only a single night before transforming into vibrant pink fruits packed with sweet, refreshing flesh. Plant dragon fruit inside a 15-gallon heavy plastic pot with a sturdy 4-foot support post. Use sandy cactus soil with outstanding drainage. Provide full sun. Water moderately during summer, but reduce watering dramatically during winter. Feed every 2 weeks with a bloom fertilizer rich in phosphorus. Harvest once the brilliant pink skin develops evenly and the fruit twists easily from the stem. Dragon fruit is perfect for smoothies, fruit bowls, desserts, and fresh eating. Research shows dragon fruit contains vitamin C, magnesium, and betalains, antioxidants that help combat oxidative stress. Here's a fascinating fact. Dragon fruit flowers bloom only at night and are naturally pollinated by bats and moths. If those pollinators are missing, you can dramatically improve fruit production by hand pollinating the flowers with a small paintbrush before sunrise. Taking the number 3 spot is the amazing dwarf Cavendish banana. This tropical giant creates instant backyard paradise while remaining compact enough for container life. Unlike standard banana plants reaching 20 feet, the dwarf Cavendish typically stays around 6 feet tall. Plant it inside a 15 to 20 gallon heavy container to prevent tipping. Fill it with rich compost-based potting soil containing plenty of perlite. Place it where it receives maximum sunlight. Because bananas are mostly water, they require frequent watering during hot weather. Feed every 2 weeks using fertilizer rich in nitrogen and potassium. After about 12 to 15 months, you'll be rewarded with enormous clusters of bananas. Wait until the fruit begins turning slightly yellow before harvesting the entire bunch. Fresh bananas are perfect for smoothies, baking, desserts, or eating fresh. University research confirms that bananas are technically giant herbs rather than trees because they lack true woody trunks. Here's a fascinating fact. Bananas naturally contain tiny amounts of radioactive potassium-40, making them one of the few everyday foods capable of triggering highly sensitive radiation detectors during commercial shipping. Our runner-up is the legendary Little Miss Figgy fig tree. Ask experienced container gardeners which fruit tree they would never give up. This name appears again and again. Unlike traditional fig trees with aggressive roots, this compact variety actually produces better when slightly confined. Plant it inside a 5-gallon terracotta pot using sandy loam soil with excellent drainage. Place it in the hottest location available. Allow the soil to dry thoroughly between waterings. Apply only a light feeding each spring. Harvest when the figs droop downward, become incredibly soft, and release a tiny drop of nectar from the bottom. Fresh figs are delicious, wrapped in prosciutto, baked into desserts, or simply eaten warm from the tree. Studies show figs are rich in dietary fiber, calcium, and potassium. Here's a fascinating fact. Fig flowers actually bloom inside the fruit. That's why you never see a fig tree covered in visible blossoms. And finally, taking the crown as one of the absolute best high-yield dwarf fruit trees for container gardening, the incredible dwarf ever-bearing calamondin. Yes, it returns to our list because very few container fruit trees can match its year-round productivity. While most fruit trees give you one harvest each year, calamondin refuses to follow the rules. Under the right conditions, it flowers continuously. That means fragrant blossoms, tiny green fruit, and ripe orange fruit can all appear on the very same tree at exactly the same time. For gardeners with limited space, that's almost impossible to beat. A single healthy tree can produce hundreds of fruits every year while occupying only a small corner of a patio. Keep it in a 10-gallon breathable container with fast-draining citrus soil. Give it full sunlight, feed regularly, follow the wet and dry watering cycle. In return, you'll have one of the longest producing fruit trees available for container gardening. Whether you're making fresh citrus drinks, homemade marmalade, and seafood marinades, or simply enjoying the fragrance every time you step outside, this little tree delivers beauty and productivity 12 months a year. Here's one final fascinating fact. Professional ornamental growers often choose calamondins not just for their fruit, but because they're one of the few fruit trees attractive enough to be displayed indoors near bright windows during winter. And there you have it, 20 incredible dwarf fruit trees capable of transforming even the smallest patio, balcony, or backyard into a thriving fruit garden. Imagine stepping outside and picking lemons for your tea, fresh figs for breakfast, sweet peaches for dessert, or juicy mangoes straight from your own container orchard. The best part is you don't need acres of land. You just need the right trees, the right containers, and a little patience. Now I'd love to hear from you. Which of these dwarf fruit trees would you plant first? Or have you already had success growing one of them? Share your experience in the comments below because your tips might help another gardener get started. If you enjoyed this countdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next gardening guide. And don't click away just yet, because in the next video, we'll reveal 20 vegetables that produce enormous harvests in containers, including several crops that can feed an entire family from a single patio. Until next time, happy planting, and I'll see you in the next garden.